Imagine walking through a dark forest and suddenly coming face to face with a predator that, instead of attacking, pulls the skin of its own face back, revealing the sharp, white bones attached to its skull. In the wild, showing teeth is the final and absolute promise of violence, the last warning of a wolf about to strike or an enraged chimpanzee before tearing the flesh of its opponent. An instinct purely focused on aggression, dominance, and survival through lethal force. And yet, if you cross paths with a stranger on the street on a sunny morning today, the first thing you do to show that you are a safe and friendly person is exactly that. You contract your facial muscles, pull back your lips, and display the bone structures of your skull in a movement that we affectionately call a smile. But the strangest part is that we do this entirely on autopilot, without ever stopping to think about how deeply bizarre and biologically contradictory it is to use the hardest weapon on our face, originally designed to crush food and tear muscles, as a universal symbol of affection, peace, and comfort. The detail that almost no one notices is that this simple and everyday facial expression hides a dark, desperate past ruled by the sheer terror of not making it to the next day. To understand how this happened, you need to imagine a brutal world where a single misunderstanding with the wrong person didn't end in an awkward argument, but in immediate death and the definitive end of your bloodline. Except this story didn't start the way it seems, with genuine joy or overflowing happiness, but with the most absolute and paralyzing evolutionary terror. Go back in time, 300,000 years ago, and visualize a small group of early humans walking cautiously through a dry and unforgiving savanna, the biting cold punishing their bare skin, constant hunger gnawing at their stomachs, and the darkness of the night hiding silent threats in every shadow. In that hostile and lawless environment, where there were no safe escape routes or police stations, bumping into another group of unknown humans wasn't a networking opportunity. It was a high-risk emergency that put the nervous system on maximum alert. The tension in the air was palpable, spears were raised, stones gripped tightly in hands, and any sudden movement would trigger a bloodbath driven by paranoia. If you like discovering the hidden truths that science reveals about evolution and the stories concealed behind the common things no one questions, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. In that forgotten world, our ancestors needed a very clear visual code, an extremely fast and silent way to defuse the tension from meters away and say, "I am not a threat, I am unarmed, and I surrender to your presence." And it was exactly from this profound state of submission and fear that our most powerful social tool was born. First, to unravel this mystery, scientists had to look at our closest relatives in the animal kingdom, observing the behavior of non-human primates in situations of extreme danger and hierarchy. But this still doesn't explain everything, because when monkeys bare their teeth in complete silence, it's not a friendly invitation to share food or play. It is a classic sign of total submission, a defensive behavior they use when facing the alpha male of the pack, essentially saying through their bodies, "I acknowledge that you are stronger. I am cowering in fear. Please do not rip my head off." And that is when something unexpected happened in the timeline of our biology. A subtle but relentless evolutionary pressure that forced this panic signal to transform into something revolutionary. Over thousands of generations, as humans increasingly needed to cooperate to hunt massive animals and survive harsh winters, our ancestors began using this exact signal of mortal fear in a slightly softer and more strategic way, turning the desperate "don't kill me" into a reassuring "I won't hurt you," thereby creating the very first bridge of trust between two naturally suspicious brains. What makes this even stranger is that our own bodies, through natural selection, began to chemically reward this bizarre gesture of exposing the facial skeleton. When two early humans locked eyes and bared their teeth in a peaceful context, both of their brains understood that the threat of death had been canceled, deactivating the production of stress hormones and immediately releasing a welcoming storm of oxytocin and dopamine, the natural drugs of bonding, reward, and trust. This detail seems small, but it changed everything in the history of the planet. It was this exact biological adaptation that allowed our species to stop living only in small, angry, and isolated packs and start tolerating the presence of strangers, forming the first large tribes, complex villages, cooperative societies, and eventually, giant global civilizations. All simply because we learned to hack the danger alarm system inside our neighbors' heads. But there was a serious problem embedded in this powerful new social superpower nature gave us. As showing teeth became the main and most valuable currency to guarantee territorial peace, group belonging, and even an extra slice of hunted meat. Early humans began to realize they could fake this expression even when they weren't feeling peaceful or submissive. This forced our evolution to kick off a true neurological arms race, developing a hypersensitive lie detector hidden right beneath our skin. And here the past starts to appear inside modern life in a fascinating and almost terrifying way. The most surprising part comes now, as we dive into the discoveries of neurology and the fine anatomy of the human face, revealing that we don't just have one type of smile, but rather two completely distinct electrical pathways traveling from the brain to the mouth. When scientists began studying facial musculature, they found the greatest proof of this incredible evolutionary twist. We have wonderful voluntary control over the muscles that pull the corners of our lips upward, allowing anyone to fake friendship in a fraction of a second. But the genuine smile, the one that truly signals we are harmless and connected on the most primal level, is triggered by a completely independent neurological network buried deep in our primitive brain. This network acts autonomously and violently contracts a muscle called the orbicularis oculi, creating small wrinkles at the corners of our eyes that are almost biologically impossible to perfectly fake on purpose. Before, this could save a life, proving to a rival tribe on the frozen plains that your peaceful intentions were true and not a deadly ambush. Today, it appears in a completely different way, invisibly shaping how we decide who to hire for a job, how we choose our romantic partners, who earns our trust in a negotiation, or even who we vote for, all based on our subconscious's automatic ability to read micromuscle contractions around other people's eyes. The modern world changed absurdly fast, with screens, the internet, and concrete cities, but the organic body and the human brain still carry the exact same cave-dwelling survival marks. That's why you can feel it deep in your stomach, even without knowing exactly why, when someone is being extremely fake with you at a family dinner or during a work meeting, because your brain's amygdala, the ancestral fear center, is screaming that this person is baring their teeth the same way a cunning predator would before striking. What today seems like just an unimportant social habit, like giving a slight, tight-lipped, awkward smile when you step into a silent elevator full of strangers, was actually the most advanced survival tool ever designed to prevent bloodshed in small, confined spaces where escape was impossible. You do this ancient ritual all the time without even noticing. When you bump shoulders with someone on the street and automatically smile in a clear shape of submissive apology to avoid a physical fight. When you run into your neighbor's large dog and your face tries to project calm, or when a baby in the supermarket smiles directly at you, and your brain, completely out of your control, melts in affection and returns the expression instantly, biologically ensuring that you feel the uncontrollable urge to protect and not harm that vulnerable little creature. But the engine of evolution always demands a very high price for its survival tricks. Living in an extremely complex society that requires you to show your facial bones dozens of times a day, every day, to customers, bosses, acquaintances, and cameras, even when you are completely destroyed and broken inside, has created an invisible phenomenon that is making our species sick. We transformed humanity's most vital tribal submission instinct into a cheap mercantile obligation, demanding that attendants, retail workers, waiters, and all of us walk around with our teeth eternally exposed in selfies and short videos. This generates massive cognitive dissonance, a brutal chemical confusion that our Paleolithic brain simply doesn't know how to process. The excess of plastic smiles, controlled only by the voluntary mouth muscles, floods our modern daily life and exhausts our threat-reading instincts, causing spikes in chronic social anxiety, a deep emotional burnout known as emotional labor fatigue, and the constant, silent, and disturbing feeling that we are painfully isolated and disconnected from others, even when physically surrounded by hundreds of perfectly happy-looking people. The same brilliant adaptation that brought us together on cold nights around the fire to survive the lions has today, in the corporate environment, and on social media become a prison of expectations that drains our authenticity and leaves us paranoid, questioning the true intention behind every friendly expression we receive on a phone screen. And when we strip away all the layers of technology, civility, and modern ego, this whole story reveals a crushing and deeply moving truth about our nature. We humans love to look in the mirror and see ourselves as the absolute and unquestionable top of the food chain. Hyper-rational beings, masters of technology, controllers of our own destiny, and above any wild animal. But beneath the designer clothes and artificial lights, we are still just scared primates terrified of the universe's darkness. Our need to smile is not a weakness or a simple social decoration. It is the purest confession of our gigantic fragility in the face of the world. The act of pulling back our skin and showing our teeth isn't just a display of fleeting joy. It is our primitive and desperate brain begging for real connection, whispering in an ancient biological code that alone we are incredibly weak, easy prey for chaos and pain, and that we need the welcoming presence of the tribe to have any chance of surviving. The next time you are walking back home at night, or simply staring at yourself in the bathroom mirror, exhausted after a long day, pay close attention to the structure of your own face and try to feel the silent weight of the past on your cheeks. Remember that every time you smile and display the whiteness of your inner skeleton to someone, you are not just being polite or following an invisible rule of modern society. You are echoing the most desperate and genius survival strategy ever invented in the history of this planet. We show our bones to the world because, in the end, accepting our vulnerability is the only way to stay alive.